ドジャースのデーブ・ロバーツ監督が米メディアドジャーステリトリーに出演しました。番組内でロバーツ監督は昨年のワールドシリーズを振り返り、山本の3億2500万ドルという契約額は今ではむしろお買い得に見えると語り、山本由伸投手が金額以上の価値をもたらしている存在だと強調。さらに話題は今季ついに二刀流完全体を迎える大谷翔平選手にも及び、チームに計り知れないプラスになると期待を語りました。その模様を日本語字幕付きでご紹介しますので、ぜひ最後までご覧ください。
There's so much to talk about with the upcoming season, but we want to take you back to the World Series last year, which one of the best World Series that certainly I have ever seen. Of course, it ended in the right way, right? So it's a good World Series for us. But I want to go back to Game 1 and just the mentality and the mindset of going up against naturally the best club in the American League and the Toronto Blue Jays. But what did you think going into that series of the way that we're going to win this is how?
The way we're going to win this, I felt that the Blue Jays didn't get enough credit kind of nationwide about how good they were of a ball club. Very gritty, very tough team. I thought we would perform better offensively against their pitching staff. But I just felt that we were going to be in for a dogfight. And so, you try to win those games at home. And like I said, I didn't expect us to not perform offensively, but we really played defense really well. We pitched really well. And I'm looking forward to digging into this World Series because truth be told, I haven't gone back and replayed Game 1, 3, 5, 7, 6, 7, all that stuff. So this would be good for my recall to having this conversation.
It worked for us.
So my first game of the World Series was not Game 1. I was still doing Cardinals, but knew I was coming to Dodgers. So I hopped in on Game 3, which I essentially...
Did you last 18 innings?
Yeah, I essentially had 2 games.
That's right.
Of course. But to make up for the 2 games that I missed, they put 2 games into 1. And as I'm watching Game 3, and there's in a different press box, we're up in like left field. And I think the story by the 7th inning is going to be Ohtani's 2 homers. And never did I think the story was going to be a marathon 18-inning game. As you're watching this game transpire, especially when you get to like the 13th inning and you realize this is never going to end, we're going to be here for the rest of time. How do you, I think Andrew Friedman even came out, and that was the game where he actually threw a bar stool because he was convinced that, we're just so frustrated, or all the emotions of this game never ending. How do you manage that side of it? And did it get to a point where you were like, oh my gosh, this will never end?
I had thoughts that it was never going to end. I think you're managing the game first and foremost, but there was a point where I was really considering having, I don't know if it was Migiro or Kike was still in the game, and having them come out and pitch after Wilkline, because you're also trying to appreciate that you still got to win 4 games in this 7-game series, albeit the World Series. And there was a attrition factor going on in that game, and certainly with the pitching. And so knowing also Shohei had to pitch the next day, or actually it was past midnight, so that same night, and Will Smith was going to catch the next night or that same night. And so I'm also thinking about attrition. And so that was kind of got me a little anxious. Very grateful that Freddie hit the homer in the 18th. But Yamamoto, you wonder what would have changed if we didn't win it right there and Yamamoto had to pitch that game. But yeah, it was up and down, and you want to win them all, but I think at a certain point, I just wanted the game to end.
I remember Ken Rosenthal, Dave, was reporting during the game, because obviously he's a sideline reporter for Fox, that you would consider using a position player to come in and pitch, because you're not just managing, of course, for that win, you have to think about the rest of the series. Did you ever think there'd be a time in your life as a manager where a position player might be pitching for your club in the World Series to try to continue to force the
Absolutely not. That wouldn't have, I don't think that had been received well on social.
No.
But I think that if you look back, and I managed in the postseason where, certain times, and people hate saying it, but you got to punt and you got to try to win a series. And so at that point in time, you're trying to net out positives and negatives. But I did get to the point after talking to Yamamoto that he was ready, and I was willing to kind of fire that bullet if we needed to. But yeah, Alana, I never thought even considering a position player in a World Series game.
I remember looking over the railing there in the auxiliary press box, seeing Yamamoto. I see the intent change in his throw. I'm like, oh shit, this could be real. This could be real. Thank God for Will Klein. How about what that kid did?
It's amazing, and he blacked out. And so that's sometimes, you can't overthink things, and he was in the moment. And, but it is a testament to when you don't give yourself an out. And I've even talked to him this spring and had him talk to the team about, when you think when you're the last guy available, then you've got to be more efficient. You can't look to the pen for someone to save you. So this is a situation he's never been in, might never be in again. And so the way he performed, we certainly don't win that game without him, and maybe not the World Series, because obviously after that game we ended up dropping 2 more at home. So always be a Will Klein fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Kitty, you go.
This is what I think everyone wants to know. If you had to choose between Miggy Rowe and Kike, who's taking the ball in that situation?
You know what? I would say, I know one guy was in the game, one guy was out, but if I had to pick one, I got Miggy Rowe right now. Kike is he's gone cold recently pitching, so he's given up walks and some homers. So I'd go Miggy Rowe.
Started good.
It started great.
Yeah. Then you got a little too froggy with
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Mindset after game.
When you look at the pitching that you had to manage in 6 and 7, I mean, your Game 7 starter is pitching the 9th inning all of a sudden, and Tyler Glass now in Game 6. You have an all hands on deck situation with your rotation as your bullpen. How do you, looking at, guys only have a couple innings at this point. You also have Yamamoto, and you aren't sure on what that looks like. How do you manage ahead while also having to react in real time to these guys where everything is on the line and you need all of them?
I think for me, there was a certain amount of guys that I was going to use in Game 7. And even in Game 6, to be quite frank, because it was elimination. So I think that there's a certain amount of guys I was going to use. And then so now, once you have a certain group of guys that you're going to use, then you've got to figure out how to stagger those innings out and weigh somebody not being as sharp versus introducing somebody else that you don't envision being a part of that equation. So that's kind of where my head is at. And then, because even Shohei, for example, I knew that he didn't have his best stuff, but for me not to try to get him through 3 innings, potentially could have introduced somebody else that I didn't want to pitch for usage or for whatever reason. And so you still got to cover 9 innings. And so I think for me, it's really just watching to see what the guy has, but it's betting on people. If I've learned anything about the postseason, it's you got to bet on people. And, the season is a long season. There's ups and downs. It's a marathon, and you have a lot more latitude and leeway to kind of navigate it. But the postseason, for me, it's about betting on people. And my job, the coaches' jobs, are to get these guys prepared mentally and physically, for those big spots, because everything is certainly way more magnified.
Some guy who really sold out, left it all out there, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Turns out 325, maybe a little
light,
underpay.
It was a little light.
Yeah. Made your job a lot easier. Made all of our off season a lot happier. I think he recently said he doesn't want a statue, doesn't want to be thought of a legend or a hero. Guy's a hero. What does it mean to somebody like you and to that clubhouse? What Yama did to put that team on his right shoulder?
I just have the utmost respect for him, and and also, I mean, he was pushed beyond limits. It just doesn't happen, and you see this. You see the play, the Pies play right there. But what Yamamoto did, I think that he said it early on: losing's not an option, and we needed every single inning and performance that he gave us to get through. You're talking about Milwaukee, Philly, and then obviously the World Series. What he did will be talked about for years. But what I will say is that I respect the way that he kind of wants to put that in the past to focus on this year. And, that's what the great ones do. You're always trying to push yourself and not, rest on your laurels. And so I respect that. But yeah, we're going to be talking about his performance forever, and we're lucky to have him. And that 325 seems like a bargain now.
I would say I don't want you guys to stop winning World Series, but if you do, we could have that. We saw a lot of Kirk Gibson homer on the board there at Dodger Stadium. We could see some Yamamoto on there.
Absolutely.
But you keep winning. I guess you guys can keep winning.
That's right. That's right.
Dave, when did you decide that Yamamoto was going to be available, and how much of that was Blake Snell really gutting it out before? Because I think Blake has talked about this, like he really had to grind through. That was all he had. So when did you decide, okay, Yama's coming in?
Well, I knew that he was going to pitch that night. Yata Sensei told Mark Pryor that he was going to be available. And so that was news to me. I was like, okay, so if he's available, then I'm going to find a way. Yeah, what a weapon. And I think for me is I was going to find a way to get him in the game. And then kind of my point earlier was I knew he only had so many bullets. So when can I deploy him? So with Glass and Robo and Blake, I just felt at that point in time, Blake gave us everything he had. He was on fumes. And again, you're talking about elimination game. I needed to get out of that inning. And I felt in that spot, Yama was the best person to get us out of the inning. Because I think in the postseason, you can't look too far ahead because every moment could be the game. And so at that moment, I just felt that Yama was the guy. And then I was going to ride him for as long as I could. And I think after that first 1 1/3 or something, he said to me, Daijobu, like, I'm good. And then as a manager, I'm looking at my pitchers in particular for them to look at me and to make eye contact, because I think that that's something that is telling for a manager when the pitcher is looking for eye contact versus not looking for eye contact, saying that they want to stay in the game. And so he was not looking my way. So I felt confident that he was still the right guy.
Well, as we look towards 2026, one advantage that this organization has for the first time is you can look to see a full season of two-way Shohei Ohtani. And it's going to be a little different. We've talked about the WBC, the preparation, starting pitching depth, and being conservative with all of your pitchers. How can he, as a full two-way player, really transform your season? What are some realistic expectations for him, for a guy that defies all expectations?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I know Shohei is trying to always, strive to be better. I expect him to throw more innings than he did last year. I have a hard time kind of saying how many homers he could hit or how many runs he can drive in or if he's going to win the Cy Young. I know his goal is to win the World Series, to be the best player he can be. And when you're talking about his talent, that should be an MVP, obviously, in the conversation. That should be a Cy Young in the conversation. So, he's the best player that ever played this game. So for him to be able to stay healthy, keep him on the field, we're better for it. The fans are certainly better for it. But I think with him, anything is possible, Katie. Anything's possible with that guy.
You're trying to run it back with a good core group of guys, but two huge acquisitions in Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz. What's been the earliest impact?
Earliest kind of impact and just seeing is both guys are comfortable in their own skin. I think Kyle had opportunities to go elsewhere, wanted to be a Dodger, and he's a quiet guy. He's not going to be a soundbite guy. He just wants to play baseball. He's a 5-tool player. He can do it all. He's going to impact games every night in a lot of different ways. But I think that he doesn't need to try to fit in because it's just he is who he is. I love that. Edwin Diaz is a guy that's just a lovable type guy. He's very accountable. He loves baseball. He committed to coming on the other side of the country, being from Puerto Rico, to play for the Dodgers, to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. He wants to win a championship in the worst way. We now have a closer who I feel that is going to free up other guys in our pen. But great competitor, great stuff. I can't wait to hear Timmy or Tommy trumpet when he comes out there. But again, he's like fun and lovable. But when he gets out there, he's a savage, and I love those type guys.
I have a piggyback kind of in the same vein of my previous question, but we've heard a lot about the target on the Dodgers' back. A lot of people like to say the Dodgers are ruining baseball. We're not going to get into that BS because you're not. Do you feel the target anymore? Or is it just you wake up, you're used to it, you seeing the red dot on your chest?
I think I'm used to it. It's been that way. I feel it's been that way since we've been here, but certainly since I've been here. But certainly, when you win a championship, then people want to take what's yours. And I just feel really good and confident that our guys have embraced that, and we're not going to relinquish it. We're not going to give it away. Somebody's got to earn it and take it from us. But we also understand that there's a lot of work to be done. So, people love to hate the Dodgers, and that means that we've done some good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。今回の動画についてどういう感想を持たれましたか？ぜひコメント欄で意見や感想をお聞かせください。チャンネル登録やグッドボタンを押していただけると励みになります。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。